All right, today we're diving into the Gilgit-Baltistan Scouts. You might know them as protectors, a paramilitary force, maybe even a cultural institution. But here's the thing, their identity is built on this really celebrated name, but the history behind it, it's not quite what you'd expect. So let's untangle this whole story. And it all starts with their motto, which is just awesome. Mudafia is Jabal. It means defenders of the North. I mean, right away that paints a picture, doesn't it? Resilience, guardianship, all in one of the toughest landscapes on the planet. You see, they trace their roots all the way back to the legendary Gilgit Scouts, a force that got its start under the British Raj and was officially set up in 1913. So that connection gives them this incredible legacy, stretching back more than 100 years. Okay, but here's where things get a little tricky, a little bit of a twist. Are the defenders of the North we know today really the same group as those legendary scouts from back in the day? Well, the answer, it's a lot more complicated than a simple yes or no. To really get what's going on now, we have to jump back into the past. Let's take a look at the original force, the one that earned the Gilgit Scouts their legendary status in the first place. So, the original Gilgit Scouts, these guys are absolute heroes in the region, and for good reason. You've got to picture it. 1947-48, this massive, pivotal war is happening. They make the call to switch their allegiance to Pakistan, and they become these key players in the War of Liberation. They literally won independence for the area we now call Gilgit-Baltistan. An act like that, yeah, that cements your place in the history books forever. Okay, now we're getting to the real heart of the puzzle. That famous force, the one from the history books, it didn't just keep going under the same banner. Its whole identity started to change. And here is the absolute crucial point. The original Gilgit Scouts, the heroes of 1947, they don't exist as a scout force anymore. They were eventually folded in, merged, and transformed into what is today the Northern Light Infantry Regiment, a full-on infantry regiment of the Pakistan Army. Okay, this timeline is super helpful because it really untangles this whole knot. Let's walk through it. So after 49, the force gets split. Fast forward to 75, and all those different scout units are merged together to create a new paramilitary group, the Northern Light Infantry, or NLI. Then, the 1999 Kargil War happens. The NLI performs so well that they're made a full-blown regiment in the Pakistan Army. Now, what does that do? It leaves a gap, right? A vacuum for a local security force. And that's exactly why, in 2003, the modern Gilgit-Baltistan Scouts were born. This really lays it all out side by side. Look at this. On one side, you have the historic Scouts, formed way back in 1913, who eventually become part of the regular army. On the other side, you have the modern force, created 90 years later in 2003. They're a federal paramilitary group with a totally different job description. So you see, two totally separate forces, but they share that one famous historic name. Right, so now that we've cleared up all that history, let's put our focus on the Gilgit-Baltistan Scouts that exist right now, a 21st century force with a very 21st century mission. So officially, what are they? The Gilgit-Baltistan Scouts are a federal paramilitary force, which puts them in the category of civil armed forces. You can kind of think of these as federal units that handle internal security, which is different from the regular army. They were set up back in 2003, reporting to the Ministry of the Interior, and they filled that crucial security gap that was left open. And their setup is pretty solid. Their headquarters is in Gilgit, they've got their own dedicated training center, and the main body of the force is made up of 6 maneuver wings, which are each about the size of a battalion. Plus, they get support from the Interior Ministry, including things like an aviation squadron. So, what's on their plate today? What do these modern defenders of the North actually do day to day? Well, their job is incredibly diverse and totally vital to the region. Their duties cover a huge range of stuff. Everything from regular law enforcement and patrolling borders to serious business like counterinsurgency and riot control. But, and this is so important, they're also the guardians of the region's lifelines. We're talking about the super strategic Karakoram Highway and massive projects like the Dimer Basha Dam. I mean, protecting those makes them absolutely essential for the stability and the future of the entire region. And they've got the gear to do it. Their arsenal has all the reliable workhorses you'd expect, like the G3 rifle and the MP5 submachine gun, but also some heavier stuff like RPG-7s and Rheinmetall machine guns. For getting around, they use armored vehicles like the Mohaffez and have helicopter support, which is obviously a must for getting across that kind of challenging terrain. But their job isn't just about security checkpoints and weapons. Not at all. The Gilgit-Baltistan Scouts are actually woven deep into the cultural fabric of the very region they protect. And I thought this was really cool. Straight from their own website, they say a strong sports culture is part and parcel of each soldier. So those afternoon games of football or volleyball, that's not just blowing off steam. It's a routine, a core part of their day that builds teamwork and discipline. And their connection to the community goes even deeper. They are an essential part of huge cultural events, and the most famous one has to be the historic Chandor Polo Festival. You know, the Game of Kings played at the Roof of the World. Their involvement just goes to show how tied in they are with a local identity. So, to bring it all together, what we've got here is a modern paramilitary force, right, created in 2003 for a very specific internal security job. But, and this is the key, they proudly take their whole identity, their whole inspiration from the legacy of a totally different historical group that just happens to share their name. It's really a tale of two legacies, all wrapped up into one. And that kind of leaves us with this big question, doesn't it? You have this modern force carrying this incredibly historic name. So how will these defenders of the North handle all the complex challenges of their mission? And what role will they play in shaping the future of what is, without a doubt, one of the most strategically important regions on the entire planet?